It's been a very tumultuous week here for me in India. I was fired from a job for being a faggot. I was, even just as simple as my neighbors have just complained because there was a guy staying with us and they said that he's a Muslim and that we should therefore be kicked out of this neighborhood. Of course, the guy's not even Muslim, but not that it matters. It's the bigotry, the reality that we all have to live around. And in these moments of despair, I turn towards my people. And there's the last stanza of this poem, which has always kind of helped me. It's from Nikki Giovanni's 1968, Black Feeling, Black Talk, Black Judgment. It's called Adulthood for Claudia. I used to wonder who I'd be when I was a little girl in Indianapolis, sitting on doctor's porches with post-on pre-debs, wondering, would my aunt drag me to church on Sunday? I was meaningless, and I wondered if life would give me a chance to mean. I found a new life in the withdrawal from all things not like my image. When I was a teenage girl, I used to sit on front steps conversing with the gym teacher's son with embryonic eyes about the essential essence of the universe and other bullshit stuff, recognizing the basic powerlessness of me. But then I went to college where I learned that just because everything I was unreal, I could be real and not just real through withdrawal into emotional crosshairs or colored bourgeois intellectual pretensions, but from involvement with things approaching reality. I could possibly have a life. So catatonic emotions and time-wasting sex games were replaced with functioning commitments to logic and necessity, and the gray area was slowly darkened into a black thing. For a while, progress was being made along with a certain degree of happiness, because I wrote a book, I found a love, and organized a theater, and even gave some lectures on Black history, and began to believe all good people could get together and win without bloodshed. Then Hammerstone was killed, and Lumumba was killed, and Diem was killed, and Kennedy was killed, and Malcolm was killed, and Evers was killed, and Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman were killed, and Louisio was killed, and Stokely fled the country, and Leroy was arrested, and rappers arrested, and Pollard, Thompson, and Cooper were arrested, and King was killed, and Kennedy was killed. And sometimes I wonder why I didn't become a debutante. Sitting on doctors' porches, going to church all the time, wondering, is my eye makeup on straight? All withdrawn, discoursing on the stars and the moon, instead of a for real black person who must now feel and inflict pain. Sometimes I wonder why I didn't become a debutante. Sitting on doctors' porches, going to church all the time, reflecting on the stars and the moon, wondering, is my eye makeup on straight? Instead of a for real black person who has to face for real realities. We live between two mosques. I can hear the call to prayer, morning, noon, midday, evening, and night. Everybody can. And yet the mere appearance of a dark-skinned brown boy with a beard and a kurta is enough to send people into haywire. The mere appearance of a man whose hips are going from side to side, who, as people say, lisps, and all these things is challenging, so much so that we are deemed unfit to be there, unruly. And sometimes I wonder why I didn't become a debutante. Sitting on doctors' porches, becoming a doctor, fitting the mold, just trying to fit in, just doing what everybody does, instead of a for real black person. What does that mean for a real black person? Well, I have to look at these words. I have to be accountable to these things that I say. And I have to say, I see a great deal of inequality around me. I see a great deal of joy, too, all that's there. But I have to be critical. I do believe that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. I believe that. It isn't just that someone said that and I write it as a signature to my emails or write it as a post on my blog. It's that it injures me to see other people injured. It injures me to see, for example, Muslims in America, for example, persecuted. People look nervously scared, you know. It injures me to see Muslims here. I mean, I look out my window, and especially every Friday, today's Friday, well, you would have seen here at midday a whole bunch of boys in white, you know, pajamas with white kufis coming from the school here and playing just like any other kid. What's wrong with that? But those kids don't have the right to be here. And sometimes I wonder why I didn't become a debutante, sitting on doctor's porches, going to church all the time. Is my eye makeup on straight? I had a conversation with this alleged Muslim man who is a queer man of color from Texas, and it's hard. It's hard being out here in the world and having to perceive injustice both in and out of your family, both having to make the decision every single day of your life. Do I deal with this? Do I face this? Do I ignore this? And you're having people all around you saying, forget about it. Don't worry about them. They ain't nothing. Why do you care about them anyway? They ain't nobody. Just don't pay them any attention. Look at the videos where I talk about this stop and stare. And people who literally stop and stare. People just say, forget about it. Don't worry about it. My aim here is not just that we should stop, think, see, look back, think back, reflect, mull over, react, respond, speak up, speak out. But that we should also listen to each other. So when I'm looking at these people who are watching me on the streets, I'm also listening to them. I'm saying, what's going on here? Why is it that there's this wall that we can only stop and stare? Why is it that there are walls all through this city? I mean, between me and the group of so-called Muslim boys that I can see across the way in the field where they play cricket, there's my balcony, the wall to my compound, the wall to this compound, the wall to that park over there. And that's how Delhi is laid out, in walls. And that's, I would say, the model of cultural diversity that is followed here. I think that is the model of how people get along. This is just saying, this is my space. Don't worry about it, don't think about it, don't even bother, don't even look at me, and if you do look at me, just stop and stare. There are ethnic communities throughout this city. You know, there's a Bengali community, there's a Punjabi community, there's a South Indian community, there are areas where there are lots of foreigners. But here I am, just a regular old Hindu, not even a regular Hindu neighborhood, a specific sect of Hinduism. Nobody's ever invited us to participate in any sort of celebration. That means from going to the temple that's at the end of this block to lighting fireworks with them when they have, certain holidays, or no one's ever brought us over one of the sweets that they have when they celebrate. And they barely even speak to me. Sometimes I wonder why I didn't become a debutante, sitting on doctors' porches, going to church all the time. That would be something that they would respect. Should I be quiet? Should you? Don't most people? Don't most people just say, oh yeah, aren't I tired of fighting? Aren't you? Aren't you tired of looking on YouTube for reaching out to someone to say something, do something? I didn't have YouTube when I was a kid. I wish I could have reached out, did something. But here we are. Unless we at least use these spaces, unless we at least use our intimate spaces and say, am I even going to have domination as a mode of operating in my home? I am going to listen to the children around me. I am going to listen to the other adults around me. I don't care, what their age is. I don't care what their social standing is. I don't care how dark or fair their skin is. I don't care what gender they consider themselves. I can be human. To anyone who comes around me, I can be human. That's the realness that I can say that is tied to my blackness, my gayness, my working classness. It says that I have to treat you like you're a human being. My Buddhistness, my Christianness in that society, everything.